Well, thanks for visiting us this morning at ktalnews.com and your Weather Authority app. I'm meteorologist Josh Marces, and this is your Tuesday morning forecast update. The hot weather pattern will continue today, as most of us should wind up pretty close to the highs that we had yesterday. We are expecting maybe some storms by the late morning in Arkansas and maybe into McCurtain County in Oklahoma. And the mid-90s heat will be with us through the weekend, so we'll take any chance of rain we can get. That will be the only thing that will give us a cool down this weekend. Looking into next week, possible the heat will continue, and by some point next week we can maybe even push 100 degrees or so, as the forecast models have been putting out some eye-popping temperatures for us next week, but we'll likely stay in the 90s and maybe close to 100 degrees for a few days. But we'll take the rain if we can get that. That's what will keep us in the 90s this week. And you can see there is a complex of storms this morning trekking across northern Oklahoma. Now, it is expected that these storms will kind of hold together long enough for there may be some redevelopment, which I think we're seeing over here in western Oklahoma. These will hold together long enough that we should see some of this rain into the northern Arklatex by the late morning or early afternoon today. So the severe weather risk map from the Storm Prediction Center is kind of telling as far as the areas that may receive rain and may not see it. The slight risk is drawn just across our northern tier of counties here, but that marginal risk extends down into Franklin and Titus counties, as well as the Texarkana area and even over into Columbia County. This is where most likely we would see that midday rainfall today. And the reason we're in the severe weather outlook is possible we could see maybe a high wind gust or two. Most of this severe weather should stay north of us today, but again, storm or two here can't be ruled out. So taking a look at your Robin's Hood Futurecast, it does show a few of these storms dipping in north of I-30 by about 9 or 10 o'clock this morning. Really doesn't show much strengthening here in the Arklatex, but the forecast models have been performing pretty awfully or pretty terribly the last few days as far as the push of rainfall. I know yesterday we were forecasting rain basically to stay here in Arkansas. We had storms push all the way through the Arklatex yesterday afternoon, so even though the chance of rain will be highest in the northern Arklatex, if you're in any of these other areas, especially along I-20, we really can't rule out some rain maybe early this afternoon as well. So just to be on the safe side here, not only today but likely with some of these pop-up storms for the rest of the week, just kind of keep the umbrella nearby in case we do see a downpour today. A lot of lightning with the storms so far this week, so even if you don't see severe weather, a lot of lightning if you're kind of out and about, especially on the lakes and rivers, given the warm weather that we're expecting for the remainder of the week. Starting out in the 70s this morning, your temperatures later today will likely wind up in the 90s. We won't have as much wind as yesterday, but we'll still see the winds between about 10 to 15 miles per hour, so it will be a comfortable breeze given the highs in the 90s today, and only a few locations in the 80s. Again, we do expect some rain here in Idabel and DeQueen, so you'll be in the 80s today. The rest of the region either in the low or middle 90s, where we'll basically keep these temperatures for the remainder of the week. We have a higher chance of rain maybe coming through late Friday and into early Saturday, and then once we get into the later portions of the weekend, looks like we completely dry out, so we won't have as much rain and cloud cover next week. And it's one of the reasons the temperatures may go into the upper 90s and close to 100 degrees by early next week.